I want you all to remember that the bullies are going to raise. All right? The bullies are going to raise. Understand that. The great separation is taking place. If you think back to 1995 to 1997, around this time, okay, there was a separation, okay? Now, this separation is about, there were people who were benefiting from your delusion. There were people who were benefiting from your 12th house crisis of not believing in yourself, of not realizing who you are and not taking command or authority with who you are. It benefited somebody. It benefited others. It was to the advantage of others that was the case. So once you come to clarity, okay, in this restoration of conviction in the self about the identity or status correction spiritually, okay, this is you taking your gifts and your light, your energy, and you becoming the commander or executor of state, executor of estate in the self, okay? And you're clearing up the illusion that you were the trustee and they were the executor of you. But instead, you corrected the status in which you understood that it's actually correct that you're the executor of estate and they are trustees when it comes to your energy. You see what I'm saying? And so this can come across offensive to other people who felt entitled to your gifts, entitled to your energy, entitled to your identity, entitled to what your identity accomplishes, what your presence brings as benefit or opportunity. And when somebody learns who they are, or when somebody remembers who they are, somebody else gets exposed for taking advantage of their lack of memory in who they are, okay? The estate has to be corrected with the claim of status, all right? Now, in a collective sense, let me give you an example, all right? For a long time, many of us who are called African Americans, so-called, okay, we now are collectively, okay, coming to the understanding, conviction, and agreement that it's not true, and it never has been true, that we are Negroes, black, colored, or African American. None of these things are true. None of these things are correct. None of these things are nationalities. We're coming to the realization collectively that many of us, if not most of us, are indeed indigenous Americans. Indigenous Americans, retitled as, okay? Retitled as Negro, black, colored, African American, okay? This was to disconnect us from estate. This was to disconnect us and place us in status called non-descent, okay? This confusion is being cleared up because we are coming to the collective realization that that's the case. Who was it benefiting for us not to know that? Who was it benefiting for us not to have this clarity of realization in the identity? You see, it benefited Khazarians, who were the operatives or the creators of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery in local America, based on manifest destiny and those assumptions over the land and titles of this estate, okay, and the legacy of those natives and indigenous persons of this continent, okay. It benefited them. It benefited white Christian nationalism and those assumptions that went with those narratives. It benefited the Catholic Church and Vatican. It benefited the Rothschild, Rockefeller operatives over this Western region. Okay, it benefited everyone for us not to know who we are, for us to claim or status correct who we are, correct the record in who we are. That changes everything, because now, instead of there being assumptions over what comes with identity and legacy and estate, there is now claim and jurisdiction that comes with identity, claim of status, correction of status, and estate. as well as capacity. Understand that, okay? So this is same thing happening spiritually. You understand? Let me go further for those out there, who might have doubts, okay? And it also might help you if you happen to come from the same community that I come from, okay? Now, on my mother's side, I have a grandfather from St. Croix, okay? My grandfather from St. Croix. This has me to be Arawak and Taino Indian, okay? Arawak and Taino Indian, all right? That is indigenous natives, okay? Indigenous Americans, okay? Understand that. Now, on my mother's mother's side, okay, out of the Mississippi region, Choctaw, okay? Choctaw indigenous, all right? Understand that. On my father's side, Cherokee, as well as through my mother's grandmother on my mother's side through marriage, that is, that would go back to Nigeria. You understand? And so, having said that, and looking at me, okay, the assumption, look at that word, assumption. The assumption is that this is a Negro, this is black, this is colored, this is African American. No, all these are incorrect because none of those are nationalities. None of those are proper status. None of those have representation in international court. None of those have capacity or jurisdiction, okay? I am a living man, and because I am a living man, I have the right to stand under my own flag, banner, and nationality. Understand? You see? So status correction is here. Now, status correction is also happening in the spirit. So with you coming to clarity about who you really are, this is you also seeing that there are boundaries around around the value and the state that goes with you. And so some people can feel offended that they no longer can manipulate you, play you, shame you, or intimidate you into including you in your estate of spiritual value that you have, okay? The standing that you have. And so these low frequency people, they will resort to bullying tactics. I'm going to shame you back into submission. I'm going to cause you to doubt yourself and to question yourself. I'm going to cause you to feel bad and present conscientious objections. I'm going to cause you to question your own moral values and principles and your moral standing. I'm going to, make you feel confused, or I'm going to turn people against you in alliances. The bullying is about to come out, okay? So this is why we really need to clarify internal conflict, make sure that there is peace internally, order, clarity internally, because status correction is here in spirit. It also is happening, obviously in the flesh, and the main person who's at the dawn of correcting the status is those who you have been used to calling Negro, Black, Colored, African American, okay? Christian Black codes, all right? All of these are incorrect. And what is coming down the pipeline is that we as a collective are going to correct that status, and that is going to challenge everything that has been erected up on that false claim. Understand, okay? So the same thing is happening with you in spirit. So, stick with me, listen real careful. Now, this is a discourse in which you should have a notebook. You should take notes, okay, as you go through this one. Midways through this discourse, you're going to find that there are opportunities where you might want to jot, take some notes and make personal references to different things, all right? In addition to that, you do want to get behind the scenes with me and schedule a personal review session, insights, going over your natal birth chart so that you can have personal notes and assessing your 12th house and first house, as well as your Pisces and Aries cusp, okay? So that you can have the clarity on that as it aligns with your numerology, with your destiny, your north node, so on and so forth. There's a lot of things to be understood, and you need your personal notes to reference to that. It will help a lot in the discourses that I will do in the future, okay? Maybe the message has been clear enough to you. That's great, but it's even greater if you have your own personal notes where I get a chance, to get in there and help you to clarify. If there are basic or general questions, feel free, ask questions below in the comment section. You know what I mean? Thank you for your support. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, all that. Make it loud, make it spread. Let's go. Sex becomes a way of stealing what we didn't want to work for. Assuming entitlement to an emotional height, ecstasy, escape. That we didn't want to commit to a process to realize. Short circuit. Hurry up and take me there. The only problem with that is it always ends in a sense of self-betrayal, regret, shame, internal conflict, because we don't understand what it is that we're striving for in doing so. Take me to the 12th house. Benefit, ascension, ecstasy. Take me to the heights, the exaltation of Venus. Take me there, but without dealing with the junk that should arrive me there in proper alignment. I don't want to deal with all that. I got too much going on. I'm dealing with a lot. I had a long day. I deserve this. The truth is that it only makes matters worse. It's dangerous for unresolved to enter into sexual intimacy. It's dangerous. You're going to open it up without knowing what to do with it. You're going to get scared at what opens up and turn violent. Self-sabotaging. Projecting. Your fears are going to motivate you to sabotage whatever connections you have. It's going to spill out into symbols, constant symbols that sends the email to you that says payment is due because you stole it. You stole from heaven. You took from heaven while refusing to align with heaven. So it can only become perversion and violence. It can only make a victim of you. Sex is not for perfect people. But it has peaceful outcomes and rewards for those who are willing to be aligned in themselves. What comes behind it are consequences spiritually that you have to be equipped for. Or the assignment of blame, injury, offense, fault, accusation, demands, control, insecurity. All of this comes out the bag of the subconscious, and it gets assigned to the other person. And this becomes our basis of being traumatized. Entering spiritual realms, entering spiritual practices and exercises without the wisdom to manage it responsibly. Among major lessons with the 12th house is self-compassion. Self-compassion. And we don't arrive at self-compassion without exercise, without some form or catalyst to teach us self-compassion. This really works along the line of what the wisdom is in lacking visibility, lacking feedback, or validation. My value, my status, my identity, my image, my power, my authority, whatever it is about myself, it lacks visibility, so assumptions can enter. The assumptions of negations. I'm not good enough. I don't meet the requirements. In comparison to others, I'm lesser. I'll never be able to do it. All of these things. The 12th house becomes a negation prior to learning self-compassion, and that negation becomes a projection. A projection that we assign to other people, to society, or to circumstance as feedback. Feedback to affirm or confirm our lack. What we don't have and who we are not. And you consent to it. In consenting to it, you assign it as your description, as your identity, and it becomes you. The 12th house has the particular algorithm of spirit that other people may not see in you. They may not know that you walk with it, because your first house expression can overshadow it. And so here it goes with others taking assumptions. You can make the mistake of trying to prove something to other people. Trying to earn the feedback that you want to hear. Overexerting yourself sacrificing yourself, injuring yourself to hear what you want to hear, or sabotaging circumstances and situations based on assumption that this is the feedback that you can anticipate. Oh, we don't need you anymore. No, thank you. You're not good enough. Oh, I have somebody else in mind. I'm going to change my mind. Rejection. What we do to anticipate, avoid, or prevent rejection. It turns into toxic patterns and behaviors in ourselves in which we sabotage opportunities, blessings. We live life sabotaging through assumptions. Oh, you won't like me anyway. You're probably just going to reject me anyway. You're probably going to leave me anyway. And ultimately, it becomes self-fulfilled prophecies. By the power of your own tongue, the power of your own thought. It has to manifest. After all, you are God. We can go on in cycles, assigning a psychology to other people that was never there. I'm going to rush ahead before you can say it that you don't like me. I'm going to rush ahead before you can say it that you're dissatisfied with me. I'm not good enough. You don't like me or you hate me. I'm going to rush ahead and just get rid of it and save myself the shock of losing this property or losing this possession or losing this connection. Because that's what happens anyway. But why does it happen? If this illusion rests in us, the soul has to legislate particular experiences that teaches us how this power works. If you are insecure, you must manifest where your sense of security is tested and examined. If you are suspicious, you will manifest circumstances in which your suspicion is tested and examined. If you're fearful, you have to manifest circumstances in which your bravery and courage, your resilience, is tested and examined. You are the one who writes the prescription for what you need. Do you harbor jealousy? You always find yourself in relationships where your sense of security is tested to the limit. Manifesting jealousy for you to heal. The point is that it has to manifest if you are to heal it. So you have to create and construct those experiences by which awareness can be expanded of who you are in such circumstances and what must be done so that the healing can begin. But we think that what's supposed to happen is we have our happy ever after because we feel entitled to it. No, you have your lessons, your examinations, your quizzes, your tests, because something is in you that is your responsibility to heal. Is it something you don't feel worthy of? It will be entrusted to you. And you will decide if you will sabotage yourself in confirming the hidden idea in yourself that you don't deserve it. And through a series of decisions that you make, you produce a confession and frequency of your own belief that you didn't deserve to keep it because your decisions did not reflect the idea that it's for you to have, keep, or preserve. Your decisions were the witness that you didn't believe it. So you sabotaged yourself not to have it because you didn't feel deserving of it. A relationship, a vehicle gets repossessed, a house up for foreclosure, you name it, a status. We only delay the inevitable the more we run away from what's lingering in the 12th house. We've got to deal with it, confront it. We got to deal with it. It's where we sabotage what we feel, think, or believe we don't deserve. But we don't understand yet what sabotage really is. We sabotage when we consciously decide that we're not going to draw upon the authority of accountability and the compassion of moral commitment to claim freedom, to remain in possession of what we know we deserve. That's how that works. And subconsciously, we make a series of decisions and frequency of particular behaviors that manifest the release or loss of the very things that we internally are convicted that we don't deserve. But in our ability to change that inner programming, that inner speech to ourselves, knowing that I was destined to have this connection, this experience, or even possession in my life or status, because it's part of who I am. It's the calling of my destiny. It's the claim of my estate and spirit. We align with accountability. We align with moral commitment in order to find the authority and compassion for the self to claim it. To claim it in every decision that we make responsibly to preserve it. Claim is a process. Let's move on. All right, going back to Pisces and 12th house. We want to get this right, people. We want to get this right. You know what I mean? So, I'm trying to throw the little details out there that can make the difference and bring the whole picture together in the right perspective. Now, I want to say Everybody out there, get into the flow state. Try to be less in your head and more in your heart. Try to be less in your thoughts and more in your intuition. It's about being smooth. It's about being natural. It's about flowing. Not the rigid control that we're used to seeking for. And there's a lot of enemies to the first house that we got to process through that prevents us from showing up natural and authentic, disarmed, flow state, meditative, whole, seated firmly in authenticity. Getting to the part of yourself that doesn't have to try. Getting to the part of yourself that doesn't have to perform, put on an act, pretend to be something it's not, subscribe to any type of pressure or force. At the 12th house, that is the energy that you've already embodied. Based on the blood. You already embodied that based on the blood. According to your soul's contractual agreement. You came here already with that embodiment. That's the essence of who you are in spirit. That's the concept that you are in spirit. You have to evolve from that basis, from that concept, forward. And it's through embodying your first house or ascendant expression. That's the progressive of you. The 12th house is the energy that you are, when you're all alone, you're in isolation, nobody's looking. It's just you and God. That's who you are when there's no incentive to be anything else. You're not under surveillance. So when you let go of everything, that's what's really there. It's what's behind the representative. When you show up, I'm looking at the first house person in the flesh, your biochemistry, your anatomy, how you walk, your posture, your demeanor. The reason why you stand the way you stand, the reason why you walk at the cadence that you walk, the reason why you style yourself the way that you do or you dress the way that you do, it's coming from this first house energy. The reason why your immune system works the way it does. Your metabolism. The reason why if I wear a scented oil, it's going to smell different on me than it smells on you. The pheromones that you put out. All of that, the first house. But what we're getting at is, what is behind all of that? That tells all of that what to do. The motive and inspiration behind it. The motive behind it is prior to our evolution, prior to our conscious involvement and participation in our evolution, that motivation is usually fear, shame, guilt, addictions, greed, hatred, vengeance, gluttony, lust. Okay? These are motives behind why you show up the way you do. Why you dress the way you do, why you walk the way you do, why you talk the way you do. Why you present or represent yourself that way. We're trying to get to where we're presenting ourselves, not representing ourselves. We're trying to take the re off of it. So instead of representing ourselves, we're trying to present ourselves. That's where we get into it. We got to clean up all of the motives behind it and get to the inspiration that should be behind it. The motives are in shadow. Because there's something we have to dodge. There's something we're running away from. There's something we're trying to escape. There's something we're trying to get out of. There's something we're trying to avoid. And a lot of these things we were born with. It's in the blood, inherited. Generational curses. Programming in the genetics. That can reach far, far back to ancestral times. Or as early as when you were in the womb, fermenting with what the mother was suffering or the father was suffering. You inherit it. And we're trying to get to where the first house is in presentation of what we are inspired by, not in representation of what we are motivated by. That's the difference. So we're trying to get to where we expose, identify, address, and confront all of the motives that are hidden under there, so that we could consciously direct the vessel of the first house. This first house is just a vessel. And when we put intention behind it, there's much that it can accomplish. It's just like your car, your truck. You know, do you keep your vehicle clean? Do you wash it and take pride in it? Do you put the proper kind of fuel in it? Or do you get just, what you can get by with? What's cheaper? Do you maintenance it? Do you keep the oil change? Do you rotate the tires? It's a vessel. Just like a ship, it's a vessel. The captain of that ship, it's the sun. But the spirit of that ship is the 12th house. The spirit contains motive or inspiration. That's what the spirit contains. And we're trying to align with the spirit that propels our destiny, not conflicts with our destiny. Who's in that vessel driving it? It's the heart. The sun placement. That's who's in there. How do you identify the heart? The heart's so urge expression. The numerological value of the day of month that you were born. Ask questions if you get confused. Stop the fucking tape and ask questions if you get confused. We're not here just for entertainment. We're here to learn. You know what I mean? Come on. Help me to help you. So you, the vessel, if you look at the center heart, that green light frequency, okay, which is center of your chakras, center of your energy centers and forces. That's who's in there. And there's a particular frequency that it longs to express, that is natural to it. As an example, my heart soul urge is number 1. 1 arrived from 10, okay? Because I was born on the 28th, okay? 8 and 2 is 10. 1 and 0. So my heart urge is to realize itself as an active co-creator, initiating on behalf of 2 and 8, which is Cancer and Capricorn axis. Secondarily, it is Pisces and Aries, it is Pisces and Virgo axis. When we culminate this to 1, it stands my heart at the cusp of Aries and Pisces, 12th house and 1st house, with the Magician card, the Ace of Wands. What this entails is assumption of responsibility. Assumption of responsibility. Assumption of responsibility and leadership. Initiatives. Creative solutions. Troubleshooting. Problem solving. But in sight of 1 and 0, it means that I am to create with the universe, not an assumption of myself. Realizing that I am a co-creator. For that reason, I have to learn how to create from nothing, with nothing. Trusting the laws of this universe to act on my behalf when in alignment. How do I arrive at that understanding? I have to experience that over and over again in cycles of lack, loss, losing, setbacks, disappointments, not knowing what's next, not knowing what's coming, having to do but not having what I need to do it with. This has to become the frequency of the occurrences of experiences in my life until I embody that conviction of the 1 and the 0. That I am a co-creator of this universe, and I can summon creative properties, forces, concepts, imagination at will. And I flow. The 1 has to have a strong conviction, belief, and faith in the self. It has to have a strong conviction, belief, and faith in the resources that is with the self, the resources to create at will. The Magician having access to all elements and forces. Take everything away from me, I know I will stand back on top of the hill. Take everything away from me, I will still wear a crown. Let me fall all the way to the bottom, I will still end up right back at the top. Because I trust who I am. 1. The 1 doesn't get to complain. The 1 doesn't get to make excuses. Because the 1 is trusted to demonstrate the way forward, the next move, what should be done. Initiating creation. One representing Aries, the child, who looks to the eyes of the mother, Cancer, for approval in what should be initiated or created, which automatically clears the conscience. And in that, we remove hesitation to be bold, hesitation to have audacity, hesitation to act on what is the inspiring principle at any given time. Living at the permission of Mother Matriarchal Yemeya. Apply that numerological logic to yourself and see what you come up with. You also could schedule a session with me behind the scenes so I can give you notes. Moving on. At Pisces, we're trying to deal with all of the shadows that are on our planets, our personal planets. The shadows that are dominating our personal impulses. We all take notice that there's a stellium of personal planets that are moving together since Scorpio. And there's a reason for this. There's a reprogramming of the self, getting back to the default mode, default modality, factory settings. It's not about right and wrong. It's not about good and bad. It's about light and darkness, shadows and illumination. That is the case as you apply it to the sign, zodiacal sign that you have at the 12th house, as well as any planets natally that you have at the 12th house, as well as in transit. Yes, this includes aspects as well. In pondering that, the shadows present motivations. Motivation is something that's pushing you into action. Inspiration is something that's pulling you into action. And that as a creator. Understand? So, we want to get away from being pushed to creation. And we're getting to being pulled to creation. We're getting to creating from light and not from the impulsive reactions of our shadows, or of shadows of our planet's impulses, aspects, an algorithm of spirit called zodiacal signs. We have to give it illumination. If you think of a planet, even just like the moon, there's two sides of the moon. One side is in shadow, one side is in illumination. We're getting to where our personal planets are in illumination, and we create from that illumination rather than from the shadow. Creating from the shadow, we create shadows, we project shadows. Creating from the light, we push and expand the singularity of light, finding unity. Understand that. And this is where we're trying to get to. We shine light on the planets and aspects, signs, algorithms of the 12th house through a series of acknowledgments. These series of acknowledgments are about illuminating these planets, aspects, and zodiacal expressions at the 12th house. It's about shining light on it. Okay? With that being said, that light is sparked by pain. Pain is what initiates that spark of light in the darkness. Okay? I want us to be more accepting of pain and not be so fearful of pain. But to see that pain only means that light is initiating out of the darkness. And we want to welcome it. Not in a sense of inflicting pain upon ourselves, putting ourselves through unnecessary trauma and drama, but simply finding acceptance for the inevitable pains of our growth, our development, our maturity, our realizations, our reach for understanding, what it takes to find acceptance. We all know the undesirables of pain, but we have to start looking at pain differently, okay? Pain is an initiator. And when you have pain in your life and you have welcomed it, you want to facilitate its presence. And facilitating its presence means you're not rushing that pain away. You're not in a hurry to get past that point. But you allow it to cause you to become more reflective. You allow it to seat you in an attitude and spirit of humility. You don't resist that. You welcome it to humble you into a place in yourself that says, I don't understand this. I don't feel welcoming of this. I don't like how this feels. And I'm struggling to relate to it. I don't relate to what I'm feeling. I don't understand what I'm feeling. In other words, confession. We want to confess everything that we're feeling about that pain, everything that pain is causing us to think and feel, without rushing it. And become reflective. Allow ourselves to get reflective as that pain is there pulsing through our senses. In doing so, the pain will start directing you. It will direct you to specific thoughts. It will direct you to specific memories, curiosities, mysteries. It would immediately have you to seek answers, clarity, understanding. As the soul understands that the only solution to pain is understanding and clarity. It's the way that we find acceptance. It's the way that we find alignment. It's the way that we alleviate the pain. It's through understanding. If we rush to fill the space of pain with assumptions, fast conclusions, fear-mongering, propaganda, programming that was offered to us, suggestions from low frequencies, We're no longer being a student. We're being a propagandist to ourselves. We're robbing ourselves of revelation. We have to delay conclusions. Delay it. And remain in a spirit of humility. I can't stress that word enough. I'm picking and choosing particular words, specific words. I am deliberately using specific words because I mean exactly what that word holds. I said humility. Humility is what we reach for first when it comes to pain. Humility. Humility is your ability to humble yourself, to restrain yourself, to slow down the time in which you respond or react, to disengage. And what this says in the soul, in the body, to source, you're saying to source, I am your student. I am your son or your daughter. I am your child. And I welcome you to teach me. I welcome you to explain to me what this means. To show me what I'm supposed to learn or realize or come to understand. I am receptive, I am open, and I want to understand what I'm feeling. Humility makes us capable of learning from everything and everyone at any given time. We are always a student as long as we have humility. Always. We are in the classroom of life. We check out of that classroom the moment we step out of humility. Now, what happens is it gets shown to us that there are a range of possibilities by which we can name, categorize, or label what meaning to assign to the pain. The meaning. There are two places I always want you to consider when it comes to this. Consider your natal Chiron, and you also want to consider the transiting Chiron. Between these two, you can establish a basis of discovery, investigation, reflection, insight towards understanding. You can always find the principle in the combination of your natal Saturn, transiting Saturn, and South Node. You can find the principle. The point of evolution, you can find that in Pluto, natal and transiting, okay, for pain. This can become your basis of self-investigation and discovery in what you're suffering. Suffering can only happen so long as you delay arriving at understanding. And understanding and compassion are twins. This is a force or gift of Pisces. Understand that. Okay? In the name of the 12th house that I'm speaking of. What will be in the way of understanding that that pain, aligning with that pain, or finding acceptance for that pain? Well, you may want to look into the combinations of your natal Neptune, the transiting Neptune, to find illusions that you may be entertaining. It's a good way to set up your personal notes and self-discovery when it comes to pain and the meditations that you take with yourself. Never ever make pain about the other person. You have already lost. Pain can never be about the other person. Ever. It's always opportunity for you to come to revelation about yourself, no matter who or how pain was inflicted upon you. It's your discovery. Can I emphasize this enough? So-and-so comes along and they say something to you and it hurts. They do something to you and it hurts. You go through an experience and it hurts your feelings. The results or the outcome, the consequences that you got, it's disappointing, it's painful. You had to let something go. You lost something. You were denied something. You were treated in a way that maybe you felt was unjust or unfair. Okay? It's never about the external. The external is a means of realization for the internal reality. It's a means. It is not the objective. It's a means. What this helps us to do is to release personalization in pain. When we can release personalization, we are that much closer to understanding and acceptance. And all of this without giving further power away. Having said that, there's a combination of things that I, would like you to reflect on with what I'm saying. Cancer Mars retrograde, okay, 2025. Scorpio transits of 2025. South Node, Virgo. Black Moon Lilith, South Node, Virgo. Mars transit, South Node, Virgo. Transiting aspects, lunar aspects, as well as Saturn and Neptune transiting aspects of Pisces for the past 2.5 years. And as far as Neptune, you want to reach back 11 to 14 years. Okay? This may seem like a lot, but when you write it down, it's not a lot, okay? When you write it down and you have notes in front of you, you're able to view it with more calm, take your time, and, map this out, okay? So, with all of that in consideration, okay? Pain, disappointment, regret, anger, righteous anger, humiliation, rejection, isolation, disillusionment, powerlessness, helplessness, okay? Humiliation, if I didn't mention that already. All of this was configured by these aspects and transits, okay? And most of all, what I failed to mention was Aries Chiron transit, which sets the basis for active pain to the identity, okay? I mention these things to remind you that all of this was by design. It all was by design. And with it being by design, there had to be certain actors and agents to manifest this design to you. Okay? Actors and agents. These actors and agents enter and exit your life by schedule. Okay? They enter and exit your life by schedule. So by schedule, everyone delivered who was supposed to deliver. Okay? By schedule, certain things were given to you and certain things were taken away from you. Certain things were added to your life, certain things were removed from your life. Certain things began and certain things ended. Okay? And where we stand at in confusion is where we learn acceptance or not, where we lacked alignment or not, or rather not we were properly educating ourselves along the way. Educating ourselves has its basis in our ability to meditate and reflect on our experiences without concluding from our anger, or concluding from our disappointment, or concluding from our regret, concluding from fear, concluding from assumptions, okay? But instead concluding from understanding. We conclude from understanding when our conclusion comes with acceptance and peace that we have found in that meditation and reflection, okay? Prior to that, there can be no conclusion, because all it is assumption, not conclusion, okay? Take my time with this, you know what I mean? I want us to have the understanding here. Now, having said that, the 12th house, so if you look at the sign, aspects, and planets of your 12th house, okay, it's very specific to how your subconscious has been driving all of your expressions and all of your calibrations of reality, all of your perceptions of your reality. It has been driving that. The issue is that it has been full of agents, energies, expressions, entities, okay, suggestions that we have failed to investigate, that we have failed to understand, that we have failed to align with and honor with wisdom. Okay? The missed opportunity comes when we fill our life with distractions. That's where the missed opportunity comes in at. And we fill our life with distractions against that reflection that's supposed to be there at the 12th house in Pisces, when we mishandle the exaltation of Venus in Pisces in 12th house. How do we mishandle that exaltation? We mishandle that exaltation in that we seek Pisces exaltation with Venus through means of perversion and self-betrayal. Okay? Perversion and self-betrayal. Perversion and self-betrayal as it relates to the five senses and our finances. That which we consume. That which we consume for experiences. Experiences of desires and pleasures. Also with Venus, through what we consume of relationships. Okay? And when we allow perversions to come in to give us what we want out of Pisces, which is dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. Okay? Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. This is the end objective biochemically for the first house that we're seeking for out of the exaltation of Venus by means of perversions that we lack the clarity, the courage, the honesty to admit and confess in ourselves that that is what we are doing. So then we get into tricknology, okay? The tricknology in which we fool ourselves and we fool others while pretending like we don't realize that we're constructing our own demise, constructing our own downfall, constructing our own trauma, entrapment, misery, regret, pain, suffering, okay? We're actively constructing it, but we're pretending as if we don't know that that's the case. Why? Because we need that dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin that is exalted with Venus and Pisces. Okay? These three, oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, exalted with Venus and Pisces through means of perversion, it naturally exploits the triplicity of Pisces in 12th house, which are the water sign triangle. So, although this starts in the 12th house in Pisces, it falls back in the cycling of water flow through the water triangle as a toxic spill. Okay, it's a toxic spill. It starts in the 12th house. Okay, it's like you take a bottle of bleach. Say you're hand washing, you're hand washing your clothes at the river or something. Okay, I'm gonna just go back to that. Like say you're hand washing your shirt in the river, and you have a white shirt and you see a stain and you're like, you know what, I want to add bleach, to this shirt. Maybe if I add a little bleach, it'll get this stain out. Okay, so you pour bleach on that shirt along with some soap and you start scrubbing it, upstream, and the water, that bleach flows into the water, and it leaves the river. It goes into the lake or the what's that called, the brackish water of estuaries and things like that. It makes its way out into the ocean. So it cycles through all bodies of water. You spilled it at one site, but it cycles through all sites. You know what I mean? That contamination spreads. So these perversions that we have at 12th house in Pisces, because of our addictive relationship with dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, seeking it through means of perversion rather than means of illumination and ascension or alignment, it becomes a toxic spill that cycles through all of your water. Now you have a salvation problem. Okay? Now you have to go through salvation to clean this up. And this starts with confession. Acknowledgement of what's really taking place. Acknowledgement of what you're really doing. Acknowledgement of how you're really affecting yourself. Acknowledgement of the inappropriate relationship that you have with Venus, with your exaltation of Venus in Pisces. Acknowledging this. So, this acknowledgement will look like a negative relationship with your 5th house, a negative relationship with your natal Venus, a negative relationship with your Neptune. Okay? So these 3 places, there will be a negative relationship with these things when it comes to relationships, finances, or that which you desire to please yourself with of the 5 senses of things that you consume or things that you experience. Really, it's about consumption, when it comes to that Taurus aspects of the 5 senses and Venus being exalted in Pisces. Okay, it's overdoing it or abusing yourself somehow, exploiting yourself somehow for what you can consume. All right, now confession allows us to acknowledge the light that's trying to come through the pain. It's a way of acknowledging and say, oh, I see the light. Yes, I see it. Okay? That's you responding back to source. saying, yes, I see the light. Okay? Because what source is going to do, source is going to give you pain whenever you break the law that could lead to a warrant or arrest of your soul within spiritual law. Okay? You're going to get pain. And it's a means by which you can rescind these judgments upon you in your life, okay, through confession or acknowledgement. So when pain is sent to you, the best thing for you to do is acknowledge it and not pretend like you didn't see it, like you don't know that light is trying to come through. What I mean by light is coming through. You have this injury in your heart or your soul, okay? This emotional injury in your heart and your soul. And instead of reflecting, it's saying, okay, why did I need to create this experience? How did I create this experience? What is it that my soul is really looking for, but maybe it went the wrong way of finding it? What is it that I really am seeking? What is the essence of what it is that I'm trying to align with? You know, where do I need to educate myself or enlighten myself so that my soul can have light in its pathway to obtain what it has been longing for? Okay? You're actively participating in the demand of your soul to have light or illumination in its pathway. When the soul doesn't have light or illumination in its pathway, it goes down these dark pathways that it realizes it has to journey through, but you're not providing light. And when you're not providing light, you run into pain, because that pain is a means of getting light to you. Okay? The pain is a means of getting light to you in places where there is darkness. Okay? So when that pain comes, you're acknowledging, okay, light is trying to come through. So confess. The confession is how you say, okay, I see the light that's trying to come through. You know, I'm mishandling my resources. I'm subjecting myself to a lot of trauma. I'm distracting myself from something. Why am I running? What am I running away from? What do I need to ground myself with? Why do I feel a need to be running away? What am I running away from? Why do I need so much noise and distractions around me rather than reflection and clarity and solitude? Why am I afraid of solitude? Why do I feel like if I don't have this person in my life, or if this person doesn't love me, or if this person doesn't accept me, why do I feel like I'm going to die, or like I'm not going to live, or, I'm just in doom, or my life is over because this person walks away from me? Why do I have these assumptions? Who's telling me these assumptions? Where are these assumptions coming from? I need to come to a full stop. Yes, I see the light. I see the light that's trying to come through. And seeing the light that's trying to come through is you're seeing the point that requires your investigation and study. It's showing you where you need to study yourself. It's showing you where you need to educate yourself spiritually. It's showing you where you need to do a full investigation of yourself. Okay? The mistake that we make is, instead, we start to have a campaign and full investigation of the offender, of the person who we believe caused us injury. We start to investigate the person who made us hurt or disappointed. We start to investigate the situation that made us hurt or disappointment. No, that's incomplete. It's yourself that you need to investigate and study. You're going the wrong direction. That pain is not for you to mark a point of discovery for that person. It's to mark a point of discovery for yourself, where you need to begin with self-investigation, study, and reflection. Okay? And what ends up happening is you make the study very personal, and that is what makes it spiritual. Okay? Because you make it personal, it is spiritual. Without the pain, you wouldn't have the ability to study in the context of spirituality, because it's not personal enough to you. Okay? It's ethereal. It's intellectual. It's pastime. You understand? It's something you like to do. It's a hobby. It's a challenge. Okay, it's exercising of the mind. No, that's not spiritual. It's spiritual when you're motivated by pain, by longing, by suffering, okay? By deep need to find answers, to find clarity. That's what makes it a spiritual investigation, journey, and study. That's what makes the case spiritual, okay? And so in doing so, you study the pain until the pain subsides. You study the pain until the pain subsides. That's what you're meant to do. In doing so, you have selected, you have chosen to expand the light. You now are co-creating. You now, as the number one, have united in the binary offer of the zero source. That's saying that marks the point of investigation from heaven through pain. And you responded to heaven. You said, I see what I'm doing to myself. I acknowledge it. I see what's happening. Okay, I need to pull back and study. Let me investigate. Okay? And as you investigate and that understanding comes through, you now have chosen to be a student of your Chiron. Okay? Now Chiron can teach you. Because Chiron is the host that, or should I say teacher, okay? Chiron is the teacher or enlightener of that spiritual scholarship, of that spiritual relationship between student and enlightener. It's Chiron, okay? So this is how you actively participate and align with Chiron. It's the point in which you become the student through humility and confession at point of pain, where investigation must begin, and now Chiron can become your enlightener or teacher. Okay, the wounded healer. And simultaneously, you're also learning how to fight in heaven. You're learning how to go to war against the darkness. You're learning how to fight back against the darkness, not the vessels that the darkness operates through, but the spirit behind the vessels that the darkness has sought. You see what I'm saying? Okay? So we make the mistake of making our war campaign against the person who manifests in flesh, the vessel, while it is not the person who manifests in flesh, the vessel. That's just who the spirit has chosen to manifest your lesson, exercise, or point of illumination through, which starts with pain and darkness. You see what I'm saying? So they bring that karmic opportunity to you to exercise you. And they know exactly where those buttons are at. So Chiron teaches you the wisdom of that pain, as well as how to go to war as an agent of light in heaven against the agents of darkness in heaven. Teaches you how to fight that. Okay? Going to war or combat against spiritual forces, it's not through arguing. It's not through fighting and being toxic, going back and forth. It's about your awareness of who you are in spirit. It's about your awareness of what the status of every relationship, circumstance, and experience that you have has in context of heaven. Your realization of where you are in that matrix, and having accuracy in how you're confronting it, addressing it, dealing with it. And through character, we neutralize and we find immunity for these things. We practice prevention rather than treatment as we become wiser. Understand? This is where Pallas Athena gets involved with strategic living from a spiritual standpoint. And this is a spiritual warrior. The spiritual warrior has to stand with truth. Understand? Truth is part of this, okay? Because all of this is to facilitate the presence of truth, to facilitate the descent of truth, okay? Ogun begat fire, okay? The principle Ogun. Ogun is Mars, the god of war, the god of iron. Baba Ogun, the god of war, the god of iron. And in Ifa Yoruba tradition, we understand that Ogun begat fire. Okay, Ogun begat fire. He begat fire. Ogun descended from the hill, dressed in blood and fire. Okay? So Ogun represents our relationship with truth. And that truth stands in either fame or infamy. More notably, infamy, okay? Truth and fire associated with Ogun is infamy. It is to be infamous. Infamous. Okay, that's truth, to be infamous. Why? Truth cannot be loved. It can only be respected. Truth can't be loved. It can be respected. Truth has no friends. Truth is offensive. Okay, truth represented by fire we know the experience with fire. That we have assumptions with fire, we have assumptions with truth that are seated in offenses, okay? Offenses that we take with truth. For that reason, infamy must be with us in all of our seeking and all of our searching. Because truth is what we are recovering. Truth is what we are aligning with. And it takes acceptance of infamy for that. Okay? Because the assumption of fame, it leans favorable to Venus more than it does Mars. Okay? Fame leans more to Venus than it does Mars. It's Venus' detriment that we're saving ourselves from. So in finding the balance in this polarized relationship, we lean into infamy of truth. That infamy of truth against the offenders within the self. The infamy of truth against the offenders within others. Okay? That infamy has to be accepted within the self. Because when we internalize truth or accept truth, acknowledge truth, receive truth, embody truth, it goes to war against the falsehood within the self, the delusions within the self, the assumptions within the self, the misperceptions within the self, the lies within the self. It goes to war. This looks like internal conflict. This looks like cognitive dissonance. This looks like lack of peace. This looks like the rage that comes in when we are first confronted with truth in the self. When we hear truth and we're not used to it, it does damage inside of us. Or should I say it reconstructs us, okay? It reconstructs the inside of our being. Everybody can't handle that. Truth is infamous. But if you align with it, its infamy goes to war against falsehoods and assumptions in the self. And the more we align with truth, not only the more authentic that we become, but the more receptive we are to love. The more aligned we are with love, the more compatible we are with love, the more attractive we are to love, until we become hosts and representatives of love and what it can accomplish. When you're looking at your 12th house, I want you to look at the fact that the 12th house became a dark motive. That everything you were doing, everything you were living for, was about hiding the fact or denying the fact that you really longed for that expression to permeate in your life. And you found a way to live without it through lies that you tell yourself and others. You found a way to live without it through escapism, running away, and becoming a fugitive from what it was inviting you to. And this is mostly because we realized that to have that in illumination, it meant we had to change. We had to heal. We had to evolve. We had to confront ourselves. We had to become infamous against ourselves and infamous against others that we didn't have the courage for. And all it was lacking was illumination. That's it. Once the 12th house has illumination, it becomes your spiritual power. It becomes your active love. It becomes the love behind who you are. It becomes the compassion behind who you are. It becomes the understanding behind who you are. And that is a complete person. That's a whole person. That's a powerful person. And that is what you call a god or goddess. Okay? Unlike what you've been hearing, okay, a lot of people run around here and like to call themselves goddess this and goddess that and empress this and them. We really need to stop with that if we're really not finding, if we're not going to live up to that, we need not call ourselves that. Don't do that. Especially you females out there. The females especially, okay? Females have done this for too long. You females out there have got to stop bullshitting, lying, and pretending. It's time for y'all to be the real deal. It's time for y'all to really become it. Because for too long, a lot of you females out there have been worried about the outer appearance, the aesthetics, what it looks like, what it sounds like. Too worried about the pictures at the wedding day, but not the discipline and commitment that fulfills the wedding day or the marriage. You see what I'm saying? It's like you want the marriage for the pictures and for the gown, for the attention, for the Instagram post, but you don't want what it requires of you to make it everlasting. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those type of situations. We have got to get away from pretending, cosplaying, putting on acts. We got to get away from that, people, especially you females. I mean this sincerely. Our nation in America is desperate for better examples of what women are. Powerful, spiritual women. Women who really embody spirituality. Who are not pretending like somebody can't see that you want me to see your nipple. You want me to see your pussy. You want me to see your ass. You want me to see how pretty you are. You know what I mean? And as men, yeah, we will always desire those things. We will always like those things. But that only exploits you to actually give that to us, just because we like it and we're gonna, be saying all kind of things to validate you. Don't slut yourself out like that. Don't prostitute yourself, because that's all you're doing. We need better examples. We need women who really understand what spirituality is and what it's about and how to present it. Womanhood has to be rebirthed. It has to be resurrected. We spent too long absolutely destroying and disrespecting the image of woman. The representation of woman is just arrogance, cosplay, antics, images, pictures. Everything is how something looks. That word look. Oh, you look. Oh, it looks. Oh, this look. Everything is about looks. We've got to go internal. The truth is that none of us can go higher than the caliber of women of our nation. We don't go higher than our women. So if we really are to evolve, it has to be through the womb of the woman, through the status of the woman. It's got to be through the status of the woman. But we have to get to where we're properly teaching spirituality, where we really mean this and we're serious about this. We're not just playing with it. And women of all archetypes are needed, to show up for this. You know what I mean? The priestess, the high priestess, the witches, the tarot workers, the light workers and healers, astrologers. Well, astrologers, if that's how y'all call it, I say astrologers. Astrologers, and what was that word I was looking for? Forgot that word. But anyway, of all archetypes are needed. But we've got to decide, somebody has to decide to go against the grain. And females really should speak up more. Because we all share the same image, Men share the same image. Women share the same image. And when you go to demographic, okay, whatever your demographic is, you share the same image. So don't represent those who share your image. Well, don't misrepresent those who share your image. Don't destroy the image of those who have to share your image. Raise it up, lift it up, keep it high, keep it sacred. And this means you might have to start opening your mouth more. You may have to start educating more. You have to get out of the habit of just agreeing with those behaviors and cultures and suggestions. That takes away from the integrity of your image. Stop condoning it, going along with it, laughing at it, and consenting to it. But anyway, I won't go on that tangent, even though I did go on a tangent. So these are just a few things, to think about with Pisces, 12th house. I'm just doing a little freestyle here. You know what I'm saying? Just kicking it, talking to y'all, and, actually staying out here at the park. You know what I mean? But I want us to think about these things with the 12th house in Pisces. And also, I gave you a lot where you can construct some notes. You know what I'm saying? I want you to also take notice here, okay, that first of all, I really appreciate everybody's support out there. I appreciate, all of you who consistently show up to be supportive. And It means everything. When, I see that, people are starting to actually hit the like button, more often. You know what I'm saying? That's all I ask. You know what I mean? I'm giving all this out, and, take notice. I do not have all my videos. Cash App, logos and PayPal logos and Zelle and all this. I don't have all that on my videos. So the stuff that I'm sharing with you, the stuff that I'm giving you, niggas charge for this shit. People charge for this stuff. They hold classes for this. And I already know it's lurkers out there who are listening to my content, okay, who I never heard of, who don't speak, who don't hit the like button, who don't share, who choose to remain hidden. Y'all are the motherfuckers who listen deeper than anybody. I know it, okay? You people out there who listen in secret, you're constantly listening to this content in secret, and you do not show support at all. You don't make yourself known or nothing. Y'all are the ones who are consuming the most. Y'all are the listen the deepest, taking notes, whoever. I don't know what you're doing with it. You know what I mean? But it's people like that who will come along, consume it, and then go resell it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not selling it. And I'm making a demonstration that I don't want you all to overlook, and that demonstration is sincerity and authenticity. I'm showing up, and it's not for a price. So before we go into this discourse, I'll say that the 12th house it becomes a place of involuntary confession in which the more we think that we're escaping from what we refuse to address or confront, the more we're producing a confession of what it is that we really are suffering. We're not getting ahead. We're not being productive in avoidance of these things. In a culture like what we have these days, where sex means nothing, it's just a sport. It's a means of leverage. It's a control mechanism. It's part of the sorcery, witchcraft, and magic that we conjure over each other. And it's the basis of why suffering gets prolonged. Oftentimes you'll see that if the line wasn't crossed prematurely or before both individuals had a spiritual understanding of their self, of their karma, of who they are, and of how spiritual laws work in the mechanics and algorithms of their emotional properties and burdens, there may be less confusion. But usually what ends up happening is that sex itself is a place where many are retreating to in order to escape, to run away from something. Something is behind them that they're running from. And sex is where fugitives meet up. It's where fugitives find each other in the wilderness or a realm where accountability seems to be far away. Where confession seems to be far away. Eventually, it ends up leading to behaviors and words that outwardly seem so self-undoing, a sabotage of some sort, where there are burdens, perversions get revealed, patterns and cycles of where we have a history of hurting ourselves the same way, deceiving ourselves the same way, and the person in front of us is just another vessel, another character, but the same person. And you say to yourself, I'm here again. I did it again. The 12th house is where pain turns into empathy, suffering. It turns into compassion. And subconsciously, your soul, it gets you to create every reality that you need to see those symbols that makes that interpretation. Those times where you sent yourself to rock bottom, those times where you sent yourself down into isolation, a coldness, where you thought or felt in yourself, nobody's here for me, I'm all alone, there's no help, I'm a victim, this isn't fair, why me? The self-sabotage that we don't want to admit is self-sabotage. We send ourselves down there because it's something that we're supposed to realize if we would only surrender. Stop running. Stop attempting to justify. That rock bottom, where you can't fall any lower. You can't get any more destitute. It can't get any colder. You can't be more alone than what you feel. That's when you finally get to hear God's voice. And it sounds just like the voice that you were in the habit of ignoring. That's when we see at that rock bottom, there was something we were reaching for, but I lacked accuracy. There was a feeling. There was something I wanted to feel. But what I did to feel it, it betrayed me. I put illusions around me. Can you become one of those? Can I become one of those who decides to stop running and assuming that it's somebody else that sent me down here? That it was someone outside of myself that sent me down here? Do we have the courage and humility to ask the question, why did I need to send myself down here. The place of dissolve, where every form that gave us a hiding place it disappears, we lose it, and it exposes the negligence that has been burdening us all along. The negligence. How is it that a promiscuous lifestyle, recklessness sexually, it always comes back to the 12th house crisis? Why is that? Why does it come back there?